When we accept something new, such as the communicative method of teaching English, old methods, such as the translation method, are often thrown out the window. I believe in a path of balance and integration, where we integrate all the best from either extreme. CELTA is pure communicative, and in my opinion, there are problems with it, both from a student's and a teacher's perspective. In this video, I'm going to elaborate on CELTA techniques that I think we have outlived and suggest healthier alternatives. For those of you who are new to the realm of English teaching, CELTA is a qualification English teachers receive to show that they can teach English in a communicative way, namely such that students learn by communicating and experimenting themselves rather than being lectured to by their teacher. So now let's tackle the myths. 1. CELTA tells you, do not echo your students. Echoing is when a student says something and you, the teacher, repeat it. Being on a student's end, though, getting echoed by a teacher is extremely validating. The idea behind do not echo is to encourage students in the class to listen to their peers more closely. It is part of peer-to-peer teaching, which I don't think is as effective as it is believed to be. Being a teacher, when I repeat from a student something that they have just said in a group, I observe that the student feels seen and more confident as a result. More students want to feel the same. They feel compelled to speak. What's more, you can turn echoing into a drilling exercise. In my one-to-one lessons, I like to establish a routine whereby if a student says something and makes a mistake, I will first encourage them to correct their own mistake, and if they can't, I'll step in. And second, I will ask them to repeat the correct version 3 times. We do learn by reiteration, so you won't waste your time doing that. 2. It strikes me how little credit teacher talking time receives. A professional English teacher is many people's best model of what good English sounds like. In fact, as a teacher, you are by far the best English speaker in the classroom. Let your students resource you. In the CELTA assessment, you're required to keep your teacher talking time to a minimum. That is supposed to leave more room for students talking, but let us not forget that learning to speak is a two-way street. It consists of 1. Listening and reading, reception, and 2. Speaking and writing, production. If we only allow students to experiment with speaking but put little emphasis on immediate live reception from a high-quality source, won't we deprive them of that which is the primary reason why they have chosen to come and study with a teacher not at home on their own? So feel free to share that little story once in a while. Talk to your students, mirror them, let them ask you questions. In one-to-one lessons, there is a lack of question form practice because of this one-way conversation. A teacher asks all questions and a learner is supposed to respond. Swap the roles. I like to ask my learners to ask me questions about a given topic. They love it. 3. Running commentary is telling your learners what you are doing while you're engaged in logistics. Cleaning the board, switching on the light, closing the window, etc. We are told in CELTA training to avoid it because it sounds like mutter to our students. But it is often this mundane language that students often lack and want to know. It is often about everyday objects, so we can do it deliberately. Being a student, I learned a lot about what to name parts of my online platform and of a real classroom when it was a brick and mortar institution. So your goal as a teacher is to update your running commentary, not to get rid of it. Be loud and clear when you are doing it, enunciate the words. In other words, be like a parent who comments on everything in the presence of their learning child. What I often do is include vocabulary students are studying in my running commentary. For example, if I'm teaching the word tidy, I may say something like, now let us clean the board so it's tidy. The other day I was teaching in concordance with. When setting up a discussion activity, I said, now I want you to discuss a few questions in concordance with your life experience. And they loved it. 4. With the development of the communicative method, Reading out loud is a practice that has received lots of bad rap. You may be told in your teaching course that when we read out loud, we focus mostly on our pronunciation and not on the gist of what we are reading. But in my opinion, reading out loud is an underrated practice. If done once in a while, it informs your feeling of English grammar, helps practice public speaking, and most importantly, it helps one find their own voice in English, hear what we sound like, not in our head, but physically. Reading out loud what we have written helps us notice mistakes and effectively self-correct. If you're teaching a large group, I understand it may not be an option. When someone's reading out loud, they're, so to speak, eating up the time of other students. But how about reading up a sentence in turns? If you're working one-to-one with a student, or if your group is small, go with it more than you'd normally let yourself do it. A personal tip. When I'm home alone, I love reading out by myself. It helps me practice my accent. 5. Learner-centered classrooms have been a definite improvement since the times when the teacher was a central figure. But learner-centered, as it's taught in teaching courses today, is just another extreme. Most people opt to have English lessons because they want to learn from a teacher, not their peers. The idea behind peer teaching is that most people have been traumatized by authority figures, such as parents, and now feel unsafe every time a prospect, or shall I say risk, of some kind of hierarchy comes up. But not all hierarchies are oppressive. Many hierarchies are useful, such as more skillful people teaching less skillful people, those who want to learn their skills. As a teacher, I understand my role and make sure I live up to it. When I was in a group, I really appreciated moments when my English teacher talked to me directly. That was usually small talk before a lesson, and I learned most of my English from those brief chats. When you are talking to a teacher directly, your commitment and responsibility are at their peak. Engage your teacher if you're a student in a conversation once in a while and notice how much you will grow based on that when compared to conversations with a peer. Another learner-centered thing that CELTA qualified might do is using student-generated material to inspire other students. The intention is good. It is meant to inspire peer-to-peer teaching and collaboration. In reality, unfortunately, very often it creates tension. I've been on both ends, being one whose material is being used, as well as one who is encouraged to learn from another student's material. Both felt uncomfortable. I've also been in a role of a teacher who asked learners to learn from each other's work. I remember a very brave student confronting me and saying once, "You're a great teacher, but we would like to learn more from you. Please don't run that again. I want to learn from you as a teacher, not the peers." 6. In my experience, reading in class works well in 2 cases. 1. It's part of an exam and you are running a real-time mock test. 2. The reading passage is this big. Reading in a rush feels terrible. Unless students are practicing for a mock exam in which reading is a part, save reading for homework. I've also discovered a better alternative to scan and skim. In traditional CELTA course, it is taught that reading comes in 2 or more stages. First, you ask students to scan the text for a general idea, and second, they read for details over a limited time frame. While scanning is generally a nice idea since we do it in real life when picking a book in a bookshop, for instance, reading for details, especially at higher levels, is often subject to interpretation and can't be time limited. It's way more effective as a homework task. As an alternative, in class you can do read and respond. Read a paragraph and discuss with a partner. The same works for listening. Play an excerpt from a podcast or schoolbook audio and ask your students to respond. They can express their opinion, share their emotional reaction to what they've just heard, or reflect on a new piece of information they have just learned. 7. It mostly serves the purpose in international groups, as students are encountered with minds with different configurations, which is reflected in their different Englishes. then there is an opportunity to learn. I do not mean to suggest that your mind is no different from that of your partner. Rather, I think frequent change of location is disorienting and creates unnecessary friction and turmoil, especially if you've never done that activity before. Stand up and move to that corner of the room. Now all stand in 2 circles in the center of the classroom. Yeah, you come here, you stand here, and you stand there. Now people from the inner circle stand still while people in the outer circle move and talk to those in the inner circle. Face the wall and you face the other circle. Let students sit how they want and communicate with the one they have sat with. Don't make them mingle too much in an evening lesson just because you want to practice a new activity. A mindfulness practice in English will be as great. Don't create unnecessary turmoil. Focus on important things. 8. And now the final point. I'll never forget when at a teaching conference, a colleague of mine shared a complaint his student had made. My colleague had just taken up a new group who had been taught by another teacher. Students looked frazzled and tired, and one student spoke up. Please, he said, please don't do games. We have done so many games. Can we just learn like normal people sitting in our seats? Perhaps talking to our partner. Once teachers learn about the fun and advantages of classroom games, many of us go way far and beyond what is beneficial and end up over-sweetening the pie. The takeaway is balance. You don't have to surprise your students all the time. Sometimes predictability is liberating. Notice what it is about your teaching that you take too far and sprinkle the opposite to balance it out. And remember that integration is the path to the highest wisdom.